There were many rumors about George Herbert Walker Bush. And before I even begin, this video is not to attack the dead. However, and I'm not even attacking homosexuality or anything like that. If George Bush was bisexual, then that's fine. But I am attacking hypocrisy, and I am attacking many of the negative aspects of George Herbert Walker Bush. First, let's start with the hypocrisy. There are now countless pieces of evidence which can prove that George Bush was homosexual. And the reason I mention that is not to attack him for it. And I will get to one of the biggest things that I noticed in the funeral, and we'll watch a clip of it. But the thing is that back in 1992, when George Bush was running against Bill Clinton, the Republicans ran one of the most socially conservative campaigns, anti-gay, anti-pro-life, anti-pro-choice, all this sort of stuff. The Republican convention, there were many signs up talking about gays and AIDS and all sorts of stuff. And for George Bush now to be running a campaign like that back in 92, and for him to be involved in certain things that I will be talking about is extremely hypocritical. But one of the things, but that's not even the main reason why I'm attacking Bush, because I'm also pro-life. I'm a social conservative. I believe in pro-life. I have nothing against gays or anything like that. I have nothing. I think that's part of freedom. I think people are born connected to the people they're connected to, and I think it's foolish to try and stop people from being who they want to be connected with. I'm not that kind of conservative, but I am pro-life, and I am, for the most part, a social conservative. But George Bush, running a campaign like that, and then you hear about his relationship with Jim Baker is really hypocritical. And there were many rumors going back to his days in Skull and Bones when people said that he would have gay sex in coffins as a part of initiation and all sorts of stuff like that. And, I never really believed these things. However, after hearing something that this man that you see on your screen now, hearing what he and Jim Baker got up to in the final hours before George Bush's death, makes me believe that George Bush was a closeted homosexual, or at the very least bisexual. Now, listen to this.
As I said, there have been wonderful hugs and kind words throughout the day, kisses throughout the day. Toward the end, Secretary Baker and I were sitting on a sofa next to one another a few steps away, and he whispered to me, that man changed my life. A bit later, Secretary Baker was at the foot of the president's bed. And toward the end, Jim Baker rubbed and stroked the president's feet.
Okay, for how long?
Half an hour.
So this man, Jim Baker, was rubbing George Bush's feet for half an hour. Now, does anybody think that that's normal? Let's read some of the New York Times as well. Let's read some of what the New York Times says as well. As he sang Silent Night, Mr. Baker said, "Believe it or not, the president was mouthing the words." Mr. Baker held Mr. Bush's hand and rubbed his feet for nearly half an hour. Now, this man is saying this like as if that's a completely normal thing to do. But, for two people who are not in a relationship, who are not in any relationship whatsoever, no sexual relationship, not a marital relationship, and for you as a former Secretary of State to be rubbing the feet of your former boss, that sends a very disturbing image to my mind. And as I said, I'm not attacking anyone for being gay or homosexual or whatever, but I am attacking hypocrisy. And Jim Baker, George Bush, all those people were very strict and harsh on homosexuality back in the 90s, early 90s. And for them to be doing this is, I have many friends who are guys. Many friends who are guys. If any one of them came close to my feet, I'd break their neck. I'd break their neck. And if I would not allow any man to touch my feet unless it's a doctor, and I would not touch any man's feet ever, ever. That's one of the that's a romantic body part as far as I'm concerned. Men, women, whatever. That is just I mean you don't do that. And it just goes back to the point, and a lot of these people, a lot of these politicians are very sexually deviant, are very creepy. I mean, you hear about some of the stuff that goes on in DC. These old men just, going on and whatever. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Bush, Baker, all these kind of people, Cheney, all these kind of people are just old perverted men who like to lock up black people and who are the biggest hypocrites because they go on about gay marriage and all this stuff, but they are involved in some of the dirtiest things ever. But George Bush was no saint. And by the way, the media knows that George Bush was no saint. The only reason why the media is hugging up to Bush right now is because they want to use him to attack Donald Trump, who is one of the greatest presidents I have seen in the United States so far. Even greater than Reagan, who everybody claims was so great. I think that Trump is one of the greatest, and the media is anyone the media likes, I automatically don't like. They're saying that Bush was all class and this and that, and he was meek and mild. Well, yeah, and that's the reason why he lost to Bill Clinton. And I wouldn't want George Bush to be president again because, first of all, he's a loser. He lost. Yes, he's good. I'm not trying. And as I said, I don't hate the man or anything, but we're talking facts. We have to talk, man. And, it's rare you get an opportunity to talk about a flawed man like you do. And unfortunately, a death is a perfect way. I mean, yes, he's a war hero and all this stuff, but he's also a major globalist who would have really threatened the independence and freedom of the United States had his New World Order plan gone according to to fruition, or whatever the word is. So, no, I'm not going to just sit here and pretend like he's some saint. And by the way, the media knows that because back when George Bush was running against Bill Clinton, they destroyed Bush in the media, ripped him apart in the media, called him all sorts of stuff. Bill Clinton was the saving grace. He was like the Obama of the day. Everybody loved Bill Clinton in the media, and they hated George Bush and Dan Quayle in the media. So don't come up here now saying, oh, he was so great. The only reason you think he's so great is because he lost to Bill Clinton, and he didn't have the stones to fight Bill Clinton. He could have won. But he lost. I wouldn't have voted for him, by the way. I would have voted for Ross Perot back in those elections. But here's another thing that I noticed on YouTube here.
Word about the president. For 7.5 years, I've worked alongside him.
He's talking about President Reagan.
I'm proud to have been his partner. And we've had triumphs. We've made some mistakes. We've had some setbacks.
I mean, I don't know. The thing about that is that it all turns back to this whole homosexuality thing. So I have to wonder, all those rumors about Bush having gay sex in coffins when he was at Skull and Bones and being naked and discussing his sexual prowesses, they must have been true. They had to have been true. So that's Bush. But anyway, listen, he's dead. Okay, fine, he's gone. Rest in peace. But I'm not gonna sit here and just pretend just because someone is dead and forget about the bad that they did or tried to do and some of the evil. I mean, evil is a strong word, but some of the sins that rested in their soul. This is the Arana Nation.